Back for more fun and sports. Guerin, Emig, and Bill Haisten, a couple of Tulsa World Sports columnists, counting down to the start of the PGA Championship at Southern Hills Country Club. That will be the main topic.
Yeah. 2 weeks from as we speak.
As we speak.
2 weeks from as we speak,
yep.
We will be at Southern Hills.
Yep. Well, we'll be there. And for those who are getting a head start, it's less than 2 weeks, whether it's practice rounds or, in our case, we'll show up Monday and see who we can see and that kind of thing. But yeah, this is here, Bill. Thanks very much for watching on TulsaWorld.com and for listening on Google, Apple, and Spotify. You've spent a lot of time out at the course. I actually finally made a cameo yesterday. You've seen a lot more than I have. I tell you, Bill, I drove from the even if you cruise down 61st on the way to the entrance to the club, and you can see the structures, right? The grandstands or pavilions, even the camera towers. I was all of a sudden I was going 30, so I was off of 61st and Harvard. By the time I got to the gate, I think I was up to 50 because I was a little bit excited. Let's just put it that way. So yeah. This is cool. I don't know how else to say it. This is really, really cool and about to happen.
Yeah. I interviewed Russ Myers, who's a really world-renowned superintendent on the just beyond the 7th green yesterday. And we got such a break because we're putting together a Sunday package. It kind of centers on Russ Myers, but it involves other aspects of course maintenance and course preparation and pin placements and just I don't want to like just overwhelm the readers with minutia, but there's some interesting stuff. Like, for instance, like the mower that they use to cut the fairways.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a fleet of these things, Guerin. Those things sticker at $65,000 a piece.
Oh my gosh.
The greens mowers sticker at like $75,000 a piece. The rough mowers at like $90,000. So, I mean, I'm interested in that kind of stuff. But we got such a great break because in the morning yesterday, violent lightning, rain, heavy rain. And I'm thinking, oh no, what a bad day to have a photo session at Southern Hills. And
yeah.
Just as we pulled in, Kelly Hines and Mike Simons and I, as we pulled in, it just kind of quit. So we had a great afternoon there. And Kelly's riding on Brian Carnes, who's the championship director for the PGA of America and has been here for 2 years, prepping first for the senior last year. And then we get the PGA Championship. And so Brian stays an additional year plus. He's a Stillwater native and an Oklahoma State grad and a former Old Collie student newspaper staff member who aspired to be a sports journalist. And now
how about that?
At the top of the golf world. So
did he choose wisely, Bill?
Well, for him, he did. Yeah. For him, he did. I mean, yeah, he's a happy guy. He's got a great career.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
No, I don't dissuade anybody who's really committed to wanting to do this.
Right.
It's not for sissies. I can tell you that. It ain't. And you saw my email today, and you can. But no, it's here, and but I was marveling at, Russ and I were reflecting on last year's weather conditions for the senior, which you remember, like people were wearing jackets during the morning.
Right.
And this tournament actually is a week earlier on the calendar than last year's senior. And I said, wouldn't it be amazing if we had that kind of weather? And he, of course, reminded me that in Oklahoma, man, you could have a hat with 10 different weather possibilities, and you're just going to draw one, and you don't know what you're going to get. But he and everybody else are hopeful that we have afternoon highs of 80, overnight lows of 50, rain the week before the tournament, but not the week of. And it should be a great week. I mean, Tulsa was always known as a place where hot major championships were played in June and August, and it kind of got a bad reputation because of it. So now for the first time, we have a major championship in this town, Guerin, in May in the spring, and you just hope violent weather doesn't result in a disruption, and that we have a great week. But it'll be, and especially if Tiger's here. If Tiger's here, and it looks like he will be, but
looks like he will be, yeah.
It elevates this tournament. Just his presence alone elevates the tournament to a different level altogether.
Well, wasn't it interesting that when he popped in last week, and had you and I talked? Is this the first time we've been together since he was here?
No, because we recorded last week before he was here on Thursday last week, and we did it before Thursday last week. So right. we had no idea. In fact, I had no idea before 10 a.m. the day of.
Yeah.
So wild week.
Yeah. This is what the point I want to make was, well, how interesting was it not just to see the reaction around here, where people pulling off and climbing trees, media in some cases, our shout out Caden McFarland. I don't know if our Ian Maw, who was assigned to take pictures for the world, climbed one. He says he didn't. I'm still not sure if he was kidding or not. But it wasn't just the mania around here, Bill, but gosh, when people shared photos and video, beginning with the plane touching down out at Tulsa International, and to see the rumbles literally just go out across, up the golf world and just the sports nation. I'm still not sure about Phil Mickelson's situation. He's got another little public problem as of today's new detail release from what Alan Shipnuck's going to have in his book here coming up, and we can get to that. But just forgetting about Phil, Tiger alone, just given the reaction to his showing up and queuing it up last week at Southern Hills, if that's any indication, that's enough to take what was going to be a really nice week and a monumental event for Tulsa to something we now know far, far bigger.
Well, I mean, it's just if you think about the improbability of how these circumstances have stacked up, we were supposed to get this tournament in 2030. The Capitol incident happens. The PGA strips the 22 championship from a Trump-owned golf club in Jersey, and Tulsa wins it. In large part because they already had boots on the ground here preparing for the senior PGA.
Yeah.
So it just made all the sense in the world that we would get the 2022 PGA Championship and that my voice would die during a podcast.
Here he goes.
But
it's just water, folks. It's just water.
No, it's Gatorade.
Gatorade.
Yeah. Blue Gatorade. So, but then Tiger, only days after it's announced that we're going to get the 22 championship, Tiger has his car accident. And I remember writing, well, it looks like that's the end of, we'll never see Tiger in Tulsa again. You didn't think he'd play again. And then Phil Mickelson wins the PGA Championship the day before the senior PGA Championship week starts, and everybody's all abuzz about, oh my gosh, Tulsa will have as a defending champion Phil Mickelson. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we're not going to have Tiger, but we'll have Phil. And now it looks like we'll have Tiger, and nobody at Southern Hills or with the PGA of America is going to go on record with a prediction on Phil. Mm-hmm. But it sure feels like he will not be here as the defending champion. Don't you think, Guerin, if there had been any movement, although he did register because he had to because of the deadline.
Right.
But if there were any real movement right now toward him, like coming back, if he was out playing and preparing and training for a major championship, you're not going to be able to keep that a secret. And I don't see any leaks about him preparing to be in Tulsa for the defense of his PGA Championship. Well,
what happened today was there was a release of the a segment, a passage of the upcoming unauthorized biography that Alan Shipnuck is writing or has written. So he's written it. That's where the comments that Mickelson made about the Saudi financed golf league dropped rather infamously several weeks ago. And today what occurred was we got a sense of, I mean, I think anyone who's followed either Mickelson or golf has a pretty good idea of Mickelson's gambling predicament, but specifics had always been hard to come by. And the specific number of $40 million in gambling losses got out today. So that's another cloud that Mickelson's PR team has got to try to temper moving forward. Bill, how about this? If the knee jerk is that, well, this is another reason he ought to probably lay low for another however many weeks, just disappear from the world until he can get a handle on this. Is there? Could you also conversely say maybe his team is thinking, go show up at the PGA's defending champion, address some of this stuff finally, whether it's how you feel about the Saudi League or the $40 million in gambling debt, whatever it is, just present sort of a pivot against all of this, answer questions at the Monday or Tuesday press conference, then try to play 4 rounds of golf and try to turn the tide back in your favor. Is there any chance that holds up, or is this too far gone for him to want to even mess with such a public appearance?
Unless he's ready to retire, whether it's here in 2 weeks or elsewhere, whenever, he's going to have to face the music, and he's going to sit in a big room with a bunch of media and have to answer a bunch of tough questions. By the way, that $40 million in gambling losses was in a 4-year window.
Yeah.
Like a lifetime.
Right.
A lifetime body of work here. This is 2010 to 2014, according to this. So I would, if I were Phil Mickelson, and if I'm really determined to get back out onto the PGA Tour and to try to restore my image and to try to patch up some relationships with some of these sponsors who have bailed on him, I can't start soon enough, because the hard part of it is inevitable. Waiting is not going to make it easier at any point. So I would come to Tulsa and sit up there, and if they want to ask questions for 3 hours, I'd answer them all. I just would, and because it's inevitable, it's going to happen. I interviewed for an upcoming Q&A yesterday Scott Van Pelt of ESPN, and who is really at his core is a golf guy. He went to the network from Golf Channel.
Right.
His rookie year at ESPN, he was here for the U.S. Open, and we were reflecting on that. And but Scott and I kind of agreed that Will Smith and Mickelson are kind of obviously great differences, but with regard to what the career moving forward might look like, I don't think either guy will ever be the same. I don't think Will Smith will get the same kind of roles or the same kind of financing for those big movies that he got before. I think he's damaged goods. And can Phil Mickelson, by virtue of saying the right things, doing the right things, and getting back out and playing, is that going to be enough to restore some or perhaps all of his endorsement relationships? Because that's most of his money, right? I mean, right. He's missing cuts and finishing tied for 33rd in a lot of these events that he was playing. So, to sustain his lifestyle, he's got to have that endorsement money. So I'm just saying, if he's going to really try to kind of make a comeback, tough questions and there's going to be some turbulence at the beginning of it, if not for a while. Man, I'd get started as soon as possible. Yeah. And start that process.
Yep. If we don't have a day like we had last week with Tiger, with Phil, in terms of, wait, have you heard? He's out at Southern Hills. He's playing 18. He's tuning up. If we don't have that by Monday, is that a sign that he's not coming? I mean, in other words, how much advance work does he need?
Well, Monday actually is the official day on which the PGA of America releases the field.
Okay, so we'll know. Okay, so that'll be that's a tell-all.
Fluid though, Guerin. I mean, if Phil, if a kind of a, because he's not like officially suspended, because golf doesn't work that way. Golf doesn't work like the NFL. But it feels like he's suspended.
Yeah.
And the commissioner has stated he ain't going to play again until we have a long talk. And you would think that long talk would have been details of that talk, or at least that it happened, would have been leaked if it had happened. So I'm presuming it has not happened. So yeah, Monday's a big day. It's not like the absolute deadline. I don't think for Phil. I think if something were negotiated later in the week, even right up till Monday or Tuesday of tournament week, and the PGA of America, well, really, it's the PGA Tour we're talking about here. PGA Tour. I just don't see the PGA of America. I think the PGA of America and the PGA Tour are kind of lockstepping on everything. So, but I don't know if he'll be here. It's just amazing that because of Tiger, who now, you got to say, in sports history, has anybody had a longer shelf life as a phenom than Tiger? Think about it. I mean, and he had that big window there after his 2009 personal issues where he wasn't winning a whole lot, certainly not at the rate he was before.
Right.
And all these injuries, and yet he can come to town and, like you say, people are climbing the fences and there's a news helicopter over and above the course, and it's just crazy. So it's just crazy, though, that Phil Mickelson, who's such a celebrated guy, and has his own interesting history at Southern Hills, should be here as a defending champion. And how glorious would it have been to have Tiger and Phil both here, as a 51-year-old defending champion in Mickelson's case, and Tiger as a 46-year-old survivor of horrific leg injury.
Yeah.
And so, but Tiger is so overwhelming with his presence and his stardom that it renders Mickelson's will he be here or will he not storyline to like sidebar status.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yep. I think I said this last week with you. I'm almost to the point of along that line. I'm almost to the point of like, gosh, it's such a, you get such a jolt with Tiger in the field that you don't want anything to spoil that. You don't want anything to counter that. And at least for one day, if Mickelson were to actually show up, there would be the uncomfortable is a light term for it, but there would be the day where he would get the questions, the Saudi questions, the gambling questions, whatever else is spilled in the book. And I think Shipnuck's book drops that week, does it not? I think it's right. That week.
Pretty good timing.
Huh?
It's good timing.
Yeah. I'd be curious to ask.
You're right. It's out on the Tuesday of.
Yeah, right. Curious to ask him. He'll be here. Be curious. That'd be my question, Alan. You didn't have anything to do with the release date, did you? Or how was that planned? But anyway, I'm almost to the point of saying, it looks like Tiger's coming. Party just went from 7 or 8 to over 10. To borrow the Spinal Tap scale of reference, the amplifier scale of reference. And I just don't want anything to turn it back down. And I'm almost afraid that at least partially Mickelson's presence would sort of counterbalance that. I hope not. We'll see.
Weren't the amps in that movie, they had an actual 11 setting on them?
There was 11, yes.
Yeah.
That was Rob Reiner's cameo. He directed it. We're talking about this, the Spinal Tap, for those who were like, what the hell's happened here? Right, Rob Reiner makes a cameo as his name was Marty. I forget his last name, and he was there with Nigel Tufnell, I think. Right? Was it Nigel or was it David? I always forget which role Michael McKean plays. Anyway, and Nigel / David is showing Marty around at the guitars and the amps, and in true Spinal Tap form, they created a new maximum volume of 11. So. We're at 11 now that Tiger is 95% sure coming.
Was that the first mockumentary? What Spinal Tap kind of did?
Mockumentary? Pretty much.
Funniest movies I've ever seen are mockumentaries.
Yeah.
Best in Show. Have you ever seen Best in Show?
Yes. Same people, same principle.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they're doing. Even some of the misses are hits comparatively, especially. But yeah, the Best in Show and this is Spinal Tap are on a different level. All right. Geez, what else? Anything catch your eye? We touched on this just briefly before coming on, Bill. Anything about the runaway train that is college sports got you thinking? Have you curious, or you just want to sit back and watch the carnage at this point?
Well, no, I don't even think it's carnage. I mean, well, unless you're an NCAA loyalist or something. I mean,
Yeah.
because I think the NCAA is doomed. And it's really the first time I've ever felt that it's imminent, not just possible or not just, a hypothetical. I mean, it feels like it's going to happen. Before we hit record on here, you mentioned, do football and men's basketball break away and have their own deal? I think they do because they are the revenue generators, and therefore, they wield more power. They have the ability to do kind of whatever they want. So, if you bundle the portal freedom of movement with the NIL
right
dynamic, with all of this chatter now about, a super heavyweight division in football, it's been just an unbelievable 2 years of change at the highest level of college football and basketball. I think football is more manageable than basketball. Basketball's a train wreck. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, it's just interesting that the NCAA seems so toothless now. It's like the NCAA's final big hammer shot was kind of the OSU sanctions, and now it's just like they're just seem not to have much power anymore, and nobody seems to. I don't know, when you see the Ohio State athletic director say, "Hey, this is what it could look like."
Mm-hmm.
If he's going to go public with this is what it could look like, there's underground talk every day about networking with the big conferences right now. About whatever it would look like, 64 or 65 team school. Super heavyweight division in football. I don't know what basketball look like. I really don't.
Yeah.
Or for that matter, what is the postseason? That's the biggest mystery to me, is what do you do with the basketball postseason? Because that's the one NCAA entity that they can hang on to, and that's their life's blood, is the NCAA. To some extent, the women's event as well, which has certainly grown a lot. But what keeps the NCAA in business is the men's basketball tournament.
Mm-hmm.
What's the postseason going to look like in 10 years?
Yeah,
maybe 5 years. I don't know.
Couple of things, if there is a break off of any kind, that's not college athletics just in general. The thing you worry about, of course, is the funding model for the non-revenue sports, because it all comes down to the media rights for football, especially, and then the NCAA basketball tournament, which is the cash cow when it comes to funding. And if you do have some kind of a break off, all of a sudden you've got to figure out how you're going to support. You mentioned, women's basketball, wrestling, baseball, softball, soccer, everything. You could be a program the caliber of UConn women's basketball and suddenly wonder what's next for you. Penn State wrestling, Oklahoma softball, that kind of thing. If you're looking for, Bill, if everyone's looking for something that sounds like a solution to all of this, there may be one thing that I noticed. There's a proposal that's been, I believe it was put forth by the American Football Coaches Association, and we're talking just college football here. They proposed two things: raising the cap on scholarship numbers for the next 2 years, I think, and that's a response to the COVID mess, right? And all the super seniors and what coaches are supposed to do. This is something Mike Gundy's been crowing about now for really since the pandemic, and he's been right, I think, because coaches have been playing a numbers game they can't figure out. This would give coaches some relief. The second thing to me is more important, and that is 2 specific periods where players can enter the transfer portal, and that is right after the regular season for a period of, I believe it's 4 weeks, maybe between the end of the regular season and basically bowl season, and then again another period in late April, which is essentially after spring practice. In other words, give players a chance to sort of get a feel for where they stand,
right,
in terms of whether they're going to play or what their situation is, and make it more about that as opposed to what kind of NIL. Again, it's not going to do away with the NIL's effect on the portal. I'm not saying it would, but at least you'd have 2 sensible periods by which players could enter the portal, and then slow that train down a little bit. I assume that one might get passed, especially if coaches are the ones that can influence ADs, presidents, and whatever legislative committees have to have a say so before it is passed.
Yeah. The key word in your whole presentation there was sensible. Because when I read about the proposed windows for the portal movement, that's the word that came to mind. That makes sense. So you can't have 12 months a year of mayhem. I mean, you can, but you shouldn't. So I think out of fairness to programs, coaches, and athletes, that's the best balance. Is to, okay, we're not cutting back on your ability to do this,
right?
But you do have specific periods during which you can do this. So
yep.
Otherwise, I mean, they could do it anytime they want, but with regard to immediate eligibility or whatever, you got these windows to do it in. And that way, Brent Venables doesn't get waylaid, early summer and finds out he's lost, that his roster's taking a hit, or Mike Gundy finds out, that he's got 2 fewer receivers in June than he came out of spring thinking he had. So, that made sense to me, actually. That more than anything in a while, that kind of made sense and seemed to serve both sides.
Right. I wouldn't take this as a sign, though, of things to come just in general. It's a lot easier to get your hands or your arms wrapped around and your brains wrapped around the portal than it is NIL. Then that of course, that's NIL is why Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, is apparently having visits with the federal government right now to try one last shot at some kind of a national uniform policy on name, image, and likeness. I'm not sure that the government's going to be very interested in helping, especially coming off the 9-0 ruling against the NCAA with regard to how they've operated their business model for years last summer, which prompted NIL in the first place. But we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. All right.
Here's the guest I was referring to.
He said he was bringing a guest on for the first time, and we have one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just wonder how it's gone for Russ since he left Oklahoma City, and so not so well. I mean, Durant out of the playoffs. Westbrook didn't even get in, and Harden's like this close to being out of it. So thank you, Russ.
For those just listening, Bill held up a what do we call it? It's not a fat. I'm getting old. What is that?
It's just a cardboard cutout of Russell Westbrook.
Cardboard cutout of Russell Westbrook. There he is.
Yeah, and he's
no comment from Russ, huh?
No, wait a minute.
Wait.
He's the next question.
Next question takes everyone back to the good old days.
Listen, I'm just kind of tickled that these cobbled together ring chasing super teams are too well in the playoffs. So doesn't bother me a bit. Lakers are out, Nets are out. James Harden kind of left 2 organizations high and dry, and now he and the Sixers look like they're going to get bounced here pretty quick. So,
yeah. Well, I'm watching Warriors Grizzlies is fun. Bucks Celtics is fun. Where's Phoenix Dallas? 2-0 Phoenix.
Yeah,
they're up 2-0. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, even with Embiid, if he's able to be back for Game 3, presumably wearing a mask.
Yeah.
See that shot he took to the.
Oh
face.
Yeah.
That hurt. That changed the Eastern Conference. So I think we're right. I don't know though. The X Factor team is Boston. That's the team. I mean, because I'm really thinking we were going to have a replay of the or a rematch of the Suns and Bucks, but when the Celtics shoot like they did Tuesday night, they're real good. They're really good. You know, Marcus Smart's a really underrated Oklahoma guy. He really is. He's had a nice career. How many guys in the NBA now have been with the same team for 9 years or whatever it is?
I'm trying to think, Bill. This is probably a subject for a summer pod that we do. But what's the last Oklahoma State basketball player that's had this impact in the NBA?
Oh man,
I mean, how far back do we have to go for him? Tony Allen did pretty well.
Yeah. Now Tony Allen he was like one of the ultimate role playing glue guy kind of players.
But I'm not sure he got to where Smart is.
No, he didn't. And you know, to be fair, Big Country was labeled a bust, but if not for a back injury, he would have had a nice career. Mm-hmm. But he had a really bad back injury. He also got a settlement ultimately of $38 million. So Big Country's doing fine. But he would have had a nice career. I believe that. Now, would Big Country flourish in today's NBA? No, because of the emphasis on the three ball. But man, you ask a great question.
John Starks. Do people even think of Starks as OSU? I guess so, a little bit.
I don't as readily associate him with Oklahoma State Guerin as I do Marcus Smart. But maybe that's because Marcus Smart was there as recently as only 10 years ago. But Marcus Smart is going down in history kind of as a really important Celtic. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He's even got a green hair for the playoffs. So I like the heck out of Marcus Smart.
Yeah,
he had a chance to cash in and chase rings or do all that, and he never has. He stayed loyal to the Celtics, so it's kind of refreshing.
Boston.
I don't know. I know you didn't expect to talk about the NBA, and really neither did I. Except I was putting a load of clothes from the washer into the dryer, and I was reached for something, and this fell out.
Did you take that home from a game one night?
No, it was like a silly giveaway thing from one of the playoffs or something.
Yeah, ago. Right.
I brought it home and I stuck it in a thing above the washer and the dryer. First time I had to dust him off. Before he made an appearance here. I didn't want to be disrespectful to Russell.
There's probably some commentary in what you just said.
Hey, he's guaranteed $47 million next year. Somebody's going to pay him $47 million.
Well, gosh. Speaking of runaway, speaking of trains off the tracks, golly.
The NBA is with all that guaranteed money. The Players Association in the NBA has got it all over the NFL. Yeah. Holy cow.
All right, we got to shut it down. But
all that NBA money is guaranteed.
Yeah,
and I heard it. All right, we got to wrap this up. But I did hear. Right. I think Brian Windhorst said, and during a recent PTI appearance, that there is a chance, at least, that the Lakers will cut him and pay him that $47 million because there's no interest in anybody wanting to acquire him.
Yeah,
can you imagine? $57 million in 1 year dead money on one guy.
Beautiful world we live in, as Devo once sang. Okay.
All right.
One thing real quick I got to do before we say goodbye is remind everyone that the All World Awards are August 2nd. Bill Knight Automotive, once again, is going to help us put that show on. It's been a fabulous event the last several years. We missed one because of COVID. We came back pretty strong last year. Mike Boynton was the keynote speaker. Rod Thompson, guy you know very well, will be doing that honor for us this year. That's August 2nd. And if you want to get tickets for this event, and we hope you do, you can check that out at allworldawards.com. It's at the Renaissance Tulsa Hotel and Convention Center. Change of venue as well. And mention the date. It's August 2nd. A little later than usual in the calendar, but it's coming August 2nd.
I kind of like it. I like that date because – yeah. I mean, that is days, just a couple of days before all of the high school preseason camps.
Well, that's true.
So everybody's kind of more wired.
That's true.
Midsummer, everybody's kind of like just unplugged a little bit and exhaling, and half the kids are getting ready to go to college, and The other half are getting ready to, it just feels August 2nd to me, or first week of August is, I kind of hope it stays as the permanent.
We may have to update the dress code. Blazers optional for the guys because it's likely to be 110. That's my only concern that day. So,
I'm hoping to get by with a hoodie and I'll put a tie on, but maybe I wear a hoodie.
You're not wearing a hoodie in August, dude.
No, you're right.
It's no way.
No, I'm just thankful that we have this major championship in May here.
Yeah.
We have at least a chance of afternoon highs of 80, 82, overnight lows of 55. And we can get that, we can brush away that bad reputation that Tulsa is a terrible place for a major championship. It's not a universal. Everybody agrees Southern Hills is amazing and Tulsa is a great market for the championships, but it's just been so damn hot here.
Yep, right.
And the last major championship memory anybody has of Tulsa, that was the hottest major of all time here in 07. So,
yep. No, going back and looking at the archives, that's
20 degrees cooler. And I just think it'll be an amazing event with $140 million economic impact. And
yep.
So let's go.
All right, folks, thanks for watching, listening, and all of that. We will be back next week to get even more worked up about the PGA and other sports items on the docket. Keep reading us, keep watching us, keep listening to us in the meantime.